I promise if you listen to this entire video and apply what I'm telling you, your life will change and you'll be happier. I'm going to provide you with some steps that can change your entire perspective on life. I'm going to explain how you can exploit the brain's sensory processing to take control of the automatic stress responses that create anxiety, PTSD, and I'm going to provide you with techniques to bring your brain to the strength to where you will never fall victim of suicide. I've been doing a lot of research over the past 6 months, really trying to understand the brain and really looking at also what is our country doing to fight with suicide. What is the military strategy, the Department of Defense's strategy? I've read through multiple documents. And what I've seen is strategy is focusing on teaching leaders how to tell people to go get help, where they can go to get help. They're stressed. We're teaching leaders how to look for people with suicidal ideation. Current strategy is a lot like the maintenance program we have in the military. When I was a battalion XO for an engineer battalion and we had tons of equipment, a majority of the time when equipment was broken down, I had to go to the mechanic for help. It was because the operator failed to do operator level maintenance. That sums up our nation and our military strategy on combating against suicide. We are not teaching operator level maintenance and teaching people how to take care of their mind and strengthen their mind. We wait until the mind is broken and then we go tell them to go get help with the mechanics. We need to teach individuals how to strengthen the parts of the brain that will enable them to fight off the mechanisms that create stress, react to the stimuli that trigger PTSD, and cause someone to bring themselves to commit suicide. Quick, I want to talk about what's happening in the brain, because when you really understand and visualize what's happening in the brain, it helps a lot better, because as you're going through this, you're visualizing the systems. So we're going to really talk about the frontal lobes and the prefrontal cortex, and this is the caudate nucleus, but really focusing on the amygdala right there and understanding what happens with a stress response. So when you're having a stress response, stimuli enter your eyes and they get processed by the thalamus and it gets sent out and information will be put into the amygdala. Your fight for flight responses. The amygdala will determine stress response required and if we need to create an emotion. The prefrontal cortex is trying to decide what emotions need to occur as well. But the amygdala is causing confusion because it has developed a perception from birth until now of what reality is, and it has determined what is right or wrong and what you should react to. It's also the same with anxiety, stress, PTSD. When you have PTSD, whatever it is that's caused PTSD, your brain does not store stories and put books on the shelves. It stores every single little piece of stimuli processed in your mind during that event. Studies have shown that 5 minutes a day for a month of mindfulness strengthens the decision-making portion of the frontal lobes and shrinks the ability of the amygdala. And I'll tell you why this is very important. They've looked at post-mortem autopsy. The interesting thing they found is that when the amygdala is so powerful that it convinces in the prefrontal cortex that you do need to kill yourself, that there is no reason to live. It removes out all elements that would justify you staying alive. But if we strengthen the front of this and shrink that through mindfulness, we have a better opportunity of preventing suicide if it ever was to happen. Well, I was thinking I need to develop a training strategy. What is the best way to take someone who's never done this, start out fresh, and go through baby steps, crawl, walk, run, until they are successfully doing such as mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy and have full control. Another technique, dialectical behavioral therapy. Dialectical means to bring in two things that are opposite of each other. Bring them together. Because they are together, it results in a positive change. What does that mean? Let's bring in adversity. Adversity comes in. That's the negative thing. Positive, you look at it, and I'm going to face this adversity, and I'm going to find how I'm going to grow, and I'm going to grow because of it. I'm not going to let it overcome me. That dialect. Two opposite things come together, and because they came together, there is a growth.
It starts with regulation of emotion. Then it goes to tolerating automatic negativity, tolerating pain, tolerating anything that upsets you, tolerating anything that creates emotional pain. And then once you have those two under control, you then go into conducting mindfulness and meditation and cognitive behavioral therapy. And here's the training strategy that we'll talk about, and I'll go into each three of these and tell you how to do them. And so it would start with regulation of emotions. Practice that for 2 weeks straight. and you to go into tolerating your automatic negativity. What is your threshold for tolerating pain and tolerating the annoyance caused by different stimuli that upset you? And then you move into mindfulness, meditation, and cognitive behavioral therapy 5 minutes a day for a month. So looking at emotional regulation, this isn't so much trying to hide it or get rid of it or ignore it. It's understanding it, rethinking why is it causing you the issues. Look at the emotion and do not let it impact you. Find ways to not let it impact you. I love this quote by Viktor Frankl. Between the arrival of stimulus into our mind, we have the opportunity to choose. We have the opportunity to choose how we are going to react to that stimuli. We have the opportunity to control our emotions and determine if we want to be happy or not. See this image right here? I'm actually grateful for this image now. Because of that image, it had built up stress and anxiety over time of me getting frustrated with that it led me to go to therapy and led me to cognitive behavioral therapy. I no longer get upset when I see those things. And you think back, well, what had brought me to get so upset when I would see a shopping cart left out? And then I would think about it and think what has happened in my life, what stimuli shaped my perception. And having always been a busybody, having to always be doing something, just the way my mind was wired, it led me to always want to work. And when I saw people not working, I created the perception in my mind that those that weren't working were lazy, even though they didn't need to be working all the time. And that perception kind of molded my view when I would see a shopping cart. Why did someone leave it out? Why are they so lazy? And over time that would frustrate me and cause a stress response and was causing issues which led me to have to go seek assistance. And by choosing to allow this to impact me, it was triggering my sympathetic nervous system, releasing hormones, neurotransmitters to different parts of my body, impacting my body, when it really did not require that response. And over time it built up and caused all kinds of issues. Now highlighting the other one, dealing with distress, tolerating distress. So what is the difference between stress and distress? Stress is an automatic response of the nervous system responding to some stimuli that we do not accept, the activation of the fight or flight response. Now looking at distress, how can we tolerate distress? So distress, it's the accumulation of the stress response begins to add up. We're always afraid of it, or dealing with pain and things like that. So understanding it, we know what's going to cause stress all the time. We know what is going to trigger us. We know what on social media we see makes us upset. And we identify that and we decide, I'm going to see how long I can tolerate that. Let me talk and be friends with those I disagree with. Let me put myself in situations that cause me all kinds of problems and see how long I can deal with it.
And manage your emotions. Emotion is what's triggering everyone to make poor decisions. Look on social media right now. All of these behaviors and actions have been influenced by their emotion. Distress tolerance. Evaluating situations that cause distress, that cause concern, that cause pain, and recognizing your response to them is actually causing harm. And a quick example of this, especially like in the 82nd Airborne, one thing I noticed one time at an airborne operation in March, it was really cold. It was probably about 25 degrees. And everyone out there, they're too tough to wear a jacket. We're going to stand out there and freeze like a bunch of dummies. But if they were out with their family or someone else, I guarantee they'd be wearing a coat. Changing your perception on how you tolerate. This has to do with so much tolerating physical pain, whether that be race, whether that be political party. You can choose how you're going to react. You know what causes you to react, and prepare yourself in your mind and choose not to react that way. And once you understand how to regulate emotions, you have taken control of what you're going to tolerate. You move to where you're applying mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy. It's crazy how the brain works, and we can identify those and we can stop it and prevent it. And that is how that'll give you the skills for the operator level maintenance and prevention on the brain, is to do these techniques on how to build the prefrontal cortex and shrink that guy's ability to prevent suicide. That is how we are going to get after it. And that's kind of how tolerating the tolerance portion of this cycle works. We realize what causes pain. We realize what causes frustrations. We realize what stuff we don't like and change our tolerance level. Those initial thoughts as they enter your head, question them. Why am I having those thoughts? Is it worth having those thoughts knowing that it's causing stress and damage in my body and things like that? Because I think once you understand and get a good grasp of how to regulate your emotions, you can choose how you're going to react. You know what causes you to react, and prepare yourself in your mind and choose not to react that way. I'm going to choose not to allow my emotions to kick in and make me upset because I know that that will cause a stress response and I don't want that stress response. I'm in charge of my body. I'm going to choose what my mind is going to feel.